friends, and welcome to today's What's the Math Wednesday, where I pick a math topic, I show examples, and then I give you practice problems. So today we are going to talk about finding the center and the radius of a circle by using the completing the square method. I always felt that these problems were a little bit challenging when I taught geometry for my students, and also they just like standardized testing really likes these types of problems. I don't know if I don't know if you are in a private school or a public school, but I know for New Jersey that the Park slash NJSLA, that's like a mouthful, really liked these types of problems. So I always liked to focus on them and just go over them. I also really liked them. So there we go. You'll notice that with completing the square, which is a method that first comes up in Algebra 1 when you're solving for trinomials, that you don't take it as far as they do in Algebra 1. You only take it as far as creating the circle equation. So let me remind you what the circle equation is. So this is the standard form of the equation of a circle, also known as the center radius form. Here it is. It's the quantity x minus h squared plus the quantity y minus k squared equals r squared. So things to know about this. When you ultimately see this equation in a problem, the x and the y will always remain variables. So the h, the k, and the r become numbers. They become values. The h is the x value of the center of the circle, the k is the y value of the center of the circle, and r is the length of the radius. So just to talk about this for a second, I just wanted to stress a couple things. The first is that the r is squared. I know that a lot of times in my class, students would make that mistake, and then I'd provide them with the equation of the circle. So in this case, like the quantity x minus 8 squared plus the quantity y plus 9 squared equals 25. And 9 times out of 10, people would forget that r is squared and that you need to take a square root to identify the radius length. So if you were provided with this equation and I asked you what is the length of the radius, it would be 5. You'd have to take the square root of 25. Other things that I found students had an issue with was writing the center from the equation. So just keep in mind that the center will have the values that you see, so the 8 and the 9, but will be opposite signs of what's in the equation. So since you see x minus 8, the x value of the center is going to be positive 8. And since you see y plus 9, the y value of the center is going to be negative 9. So it will be the opposite of what you see. And that's just because of how the formula works. Because the formula itself has x minus h squared and then like y minus k squared. So if in the equation you see x minus 8, you know that the x value for the center is a positive 8. And if you see y plus 9, then you know that what happened is you ultimately had y minus negative 9. And when you have a double negative, that's what makes it a positive or a plus sign. Okay, let's go into one of these problems. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a very detailed method of these problems. And then I'm going to show you a shortcut that I do just because I don't do all of these steps. Like I do some of them mentally. I don't do all of these steps out. But I'm going to show you all of the steps so you know where these problems are coming from. So here's the first problem. It says, find the center and radius by completing the square. So if you have a constant value, like in this case, we have x squared plus y squared minus 8x plus 2y plus 8, that's our constant. Remember, constant values are numbers without variables, equals 0. So what you want to do first is you want to move the constant over to the other side of the equal sign so that everything on the left side of the equation has a variable and everything on the right side of the equation does not. So you move things across an equal sign by doing the opposite of what you see. And that's because you want to cancel it out on the one side and bring it over to the other side. So if you see a +8, you're going to subtract 8 from both sides. So that'll cancel the 8 out on the left side and bring it over to the right side. And then what you would do is you would simplify whatever numbers are originally on the right side. So like in this case, we have 0. So 0 minus 8 is -8. So we have x squared plus y squared minus 8x plus 2y equals -8. Then what you want to do is rewrite it, the equation, so that like the x's are next to the x's and the y's are next to the y's, because that's going to help you greatly with these problems. So keep the structure of the monomial. So like in this case, the 8 is minus 8x. Sorry guys, that was my phone. And the y squared is positive. So you still want to keep those signs. You just want to move the location. So we're going to have x squared minus 8x plus y squared plus 2y equals -8. Okay, from there, you are going to divide the number in front of your x by 2. Then you're going to square it and add that value to both sides of the equation. And the reason that you're doing this is because you're creating perfect square trinomials. So you're going to do that for x, and you're also going to do that for y. And what you do to one side, you have to do to both. That's why you're adding that value to both sides of the equation. So the number in front of your x is -8. Dividing that by 2 is -4. And then squaring that value is 16. So you're going to add 16 to both sides. And that's going to give you x squared minus 8x plus 16, then plus y squared plus 2y equals -8 plus 16. Again, you're going to do the same process, but with the y value. So the number in front of your y is a 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. So you're going to add a 1 to both sides of the equation. So the whole thing looks like x squared minus 8x plus 16 plus y squared plus 2y plus 1 equals -8 plus 16 plus 1. Okay. Then what you're going to do is you're going to simplify the right side, just so you just add the things together you need to add together. So in this case, we're going to add the -8 and the 16 and the 1 together, and we're going to get 9. So at this point, you keep the left side the same. Once you simplify the right side, then what you're going to do is you're going to factor the trinomials. So you're going to have 2 different trinomials you need to factor, one with the x's and then one with the y's. So if you have x squared minus 8x plus 16 and you're factoring this perfect square trinomial, that's going to give you x minus 4 squared. So that's our x value. If you factor y squared plus 2y plus 1, if you factor that perfect square trinomial, you're going to get y plus 1 squared. So our equation of the circle then is the quantity x minus 4 squared plus the quantity y plus 1 squared equals 9. So that's as far as you go with the completing the square. From there, you can identify your radius. So since you see 9, you take a square root and you say, okay, my radius is 3. And from there, you can say, okay, I have x minus 4 squared, so my x value for the center is positive 4. I have y plus 1 squared, so my y value for my center is negative 1. So my center is 4 comma negative 1, and my radius is 3. Okay, next, let's talk about my way of doing this problem. So basically, I cut a few steps out. Things to take note of. If you were to look at the equation right before we factored, right? We have x squared minus 8x plus 16, y squared plus 2y plus 1. Now, if you look in the parentheses for the x's, it's x minus 4. The factored parentheses will always be variable, the sign of the number in front of your x, and then half of that value. So I don't make the trinomial on the left side. I do add the the value halved and then squared on the right side, but I don't write the full trinomial out. So I'm going to show you how I do that. Okay, so here's a new problem. It's x squared plus y squared minus 4x minus 2y equals negative 1. So the constant is already on the right side, so we don't have to move anything over. So the first thing I would want to do is rewrite. So the x's are with the x's and the y's are with the y's. So I have x squared minus 4x plus y squared minus 2y equals negative 1. Then, like I said before, I do not make the trinomial on the left side. I automatically go into the factoring because the parentheses will be the number in front of your x halved. So in the x parentheses, because the number in front of your x is negative 4 and half of negative 4 is negative 2, the x parentheses is going to be x minus 2 squared. And because the number in front of your y is negative 2, the y parentheses is going to be y minus 1 squared because half of negative 2 is negative 1. So, like I said, I don't write the trinomial. However, the halved value, I do square it and I do add it to the right side because that still needs to happen. So in my parentheses, I have that negative 2 with the x. So squaring the negative 2 would be 4. So I add 4 to the right side. In the y parentheses, I have a negative 1. So squaring negative 1 is positive 1. So I add positive 1 to the right side. So that's how I go from the x squared minus 4x plus y squared minus 2y equals negative 1 to this next line of the quantity x minus 2 squared plus the quantity y minus 1 squared equals negative 1 plus 4 plus 1. Then I simplify my right side, just adding the values together. So negative 1 plus 4 plus 1 gives me 4. And then from there, immediately I can identify the center and the radius. So I know the radius, I take the square root of that value at the right side. So the square root of 4 is 2. My center, I use opposite signs that are in the equation, but the same numbers. So since I have x minus 2, my x value for the center is positive 2. And since I have y minus 1, my y value for the center is positive 1. So that's my shortcut. Now, whether you do the long way or the short way, you still should come out with the correct answer if you do everything correctly. So here are 2 examples I'd like you to do. Again, if you don't want to do them, that's fine. There will be a video later with how to do them, the way that I do them. If you want me to show you the longer way, just let me know. So here's the you do number 1. Again, these problems are from Marie Quintano. She and I used to teach together, and these problems are from the notes she created. So find the center and the radius of the circle. So here's the equation. X squared plus y squared plus 8x minus 14y plus 40 equals 0. So again, guys, you'd want to use completing the square to write this equation of the circle, and then from there, you would identify the center and the radius. So that's you do number 1. I gave you 2 just in case you wanted a second problem to practice. So here's the second one. So the second you do is x squared plus y squared plus 8x minus 4y equals negative 4. So again, use completing the square to write the equation of the circle, and then from there you can identify the center and the radius. Okay, guys, have a great day. Let me know if there's a topic you would like me to go over. Bye.